Today, we're taking a look at Egyptian stick fighting. Hi guys, my name is Joe, and welcome to my channel, Fighting Words, the Martial Arts Library. On this channel, I cover martial arts books in the form of reviews. I also talk about other martial arts related subjects. So the subject of today's review is going to be Modern Tahtib, published in 2014 by Dr. Adel Paul Boulad. Now, Dr. Boulad, actually he got his degree in physics, of all things, but he's been a lifelong martial artist. He was born in Egypt, and he has since had this fascination and has sort of revived Tahtib, which is an Egyptian stick fighting art that can trace its roots back millennia. Now, as it's presented in this book, which is written in French as well as English, it is considered a festive art as well as a martial art. And to that end, it is performed at festivals. It is in many ways cooperative. It's usually accompanied by music like drums and a mizmar, at least one, maybe more, which is a reed instrument, double reed instrument. During these performances, the crowd provides their voices to the event as well as, sort of providing a rhythm. The book itself has a number of color photos. It also includes color-coded chapters. So, the header or the corner of the chapter is going to be coded, like maroon or, blue or something like that, so that when you're flipping through the book, you can go, okay, this chapter is this thing, and this chapter is the next one. So, chapter 1 is sort of our introduction into Tahtib. It begins by going over the roles of the trainer as well as the trainee. It also covers various concepts such as skill, attitude, power, control, and breath present. Basically, a big part of the Tahtib experience is the cooperative portion of it. This is not full contact. They are, sort of showing that they could strike at the opponent, but not really going all in. The sticks they use are 1.3 meters, which winds up being a little over 4 feet 3 inches for those of us in America who are using the imperial measurements. Chapter 2 is when we start getting into the physical side of the art, and it covers things like posture. It covers things like how to hold the stick. Normally it's held toward the end of one side. And it also covers, I guess, fundamental movements, both with and without the stick. Things like, stretches and, sort of loosening up movements. And then we get into chapter 3, which teaches the form called the anchor and stick dance. And it's interesting that this also includes the rhythm at which this form should be performed. Chapter 4 is actually on the martial techniques, and this starts off by pointing out that the head is actually the number one target in Tahtib. In this chapter, we get drills for gauging distance. We also get drills for how to practice hits as well as defenses. We get the basic strikes with movement, including movement up and down from the ground. And we also get some notes on incorrect posture. Then we move on to 5, which covers jousts. The jousts begin and end with a bow, and they are in 3 different phases. The first one is the gauging the distance phase. The second section in the jousts is just practicing basic hits, and then the third part, which is right at the end, is free jousts, which again, this has to be done with control, but in this case, it becomes more of like a game or a combative exercise. Chapter 6 takes a look at what actually goes into free jousting. That includes standing and on the ground. I say on the ground, it's more like a seated position across from someone. And this also includes jousts when you have 3 people involved, which is an interesting aspect of this particular art in this particular exercise. Now in chapter 7 we get into the codified forms. These superficially are going to resemble forms, or kata if you will, from other martial arts, particularly those involving a staff, of course. Each one has a theme to it, and they all seem relatively recent. Like many of them, if not all of them, were created in the last 10 or 15 years. And at the beginning of each chapter, you get a very short paragraph sort of describing the form and what it's meant to represent and a little bit of its history. Then we get a couple of brief chapters, 8 and 9, which are on events and what they are like, and also on the various clothing that you can wear. And finally, chapter 10 is on history, briefly, of Tahtib. Now, as far as the prose go, this is a very modern book in its construction. Among other things that stand out, there are these little QRL codes. So you can use your phone, take a picture of the QRL code, and it will take you to a website or a video, for instance, of how to perform a certain form. Because it's in color and it has those color-coded chapters, it's really easy to follow. There's even at the introductory part, it'll have the different colors that the other chapters are coded in. And finally, I consider this a plus. It's in both French and English. So if you speak better French than you do English, maybe this will be a book that may be of some interest to you. As far as the cons go, I really wish there had been more description in the techniques and the forms. A picture says 1,000 words, as they say, but I just feel like a little bit more detailed descriptions in those sections would work. Also, I haven't looked at every QRL code. I have come across at least one that leads to a dead website. So, I don't know how true that is across the board. This is a pretty new book. So, several other QRL codes that I tried were active, but just bear in mind, maybe not all of them would be. So, recommendations. If you are a completionist, like me, this is a not well-known martial form, and I got this in part because I'm going to have something on an Egyptian martial art. I don't have anything on an Egyptian martial art besides this, right? There's also the stick fighting aspect to it. This is taught more as a game, but certainly the movements could be used in live fighting. I think if you have an interest in Egyptian culture in particular, this would be a very useful book. And it's just really well done. I think it's actually designed for people to use it as a sort of textbook to start their own Tahtib club or movement. So, like I said, it's a little unusual in its scope, but if you have an interest in a variety of stick fighting, if you have an interest in Egyptian culture, I think that this might be of interest to you. So that's all I have for this week. Let me very briefly mention that I'm doing this review because I posted about it on Instagram, and one of my Instagram followers, Teresa Travels, said that she couldn't wait for the review. So here's the review. If you guys do let me know if you have an interest in a particular book or style or something like that, I will try to prioritize it ahead of some of the others that I have working on. So yeah, that's all I got for this week, and thank you guys. I will see you later. Come on. Cool. Harper Hayes. Also, if you guys are going to play, you need to play. Dude, pick one.